Hi everyone, George here from Locked On Art, and in this video I'm going to be building a Marder III Ausf E. Now this particular kit is from Dragon Models and it is a smart kit, and what that means is that it has all the bells and whistles. It's got a lot of photo etch, it has an aluminium barrel, it's got magic tracks and a lot of fine detail with internal parts as well. I'll just show you the back of the box. There's a fully detailed interior. There's some of the extra photo etch parts, the aluminium barrel. It's got a full internal engine, magic tracks there, and they have cast marks on them. Right, so we'll have a quick look in the box and then we'll get straight into the build. Got the typical instructions from Dragon. Got the parts list on the front there. And the instructions. Now if you've not built a Dragon model before, it's quite confusing to get your head around it. And it is for the more advanced modeler. But once you get used to the symbols and the layout, then the instructions are actually pretty good. Nice clear detail. And it just shows you exactly where to put everything. And on the back there, some painting and markings. So as I was saying, there's a lot of extra photo etch parts in this. There's a couple of sheets here on the back. There's the aluminium barrel. Some clear parts. And the decals there. And they do include decals for the extra stowage. The magic tracks here, they all clip in together, really easy construction. There's no flash on them, so they're all ready to go. And just the main parts of the tank. The fenders there in the back of the hull. Is the bottom of the hull, and also included is a weather tarp and the wheels and sprockets, and that's the armor plate for the gun and the back trays. And also it comes with a preformed grille tray for the back. And the instructions say to start with the wheels and the tracks. I'm going to deviate away from that a little bit, and I'm going to start on the interior with the engine and the transmission. So for the engine, I just went ahead and made it. There was a lot of small parts, too fiddly to film. There's actually over 30 parts to this piece. And I did a wee bit of research on this engine, and there is a lot of extra parts that I want to add to this. And for the firewall, I've cut out the two small doors there and just replaced those with something a bit more accurate, and also opened up the hatches. So the engine itself is looking pretty good. I just want to be able to connect it to the different parts with tubes and wires and things. I've made a wee dipstick handle that goes in this corner. So that's now the engine finished off. I've got the battery hooked up, the oil tank is hooked up, and I also have the fuel tanks hooked up to the engine. Just with this piece here, I've actually removed the inner portion, just simply because it was covering all of that wall in there, and I haven't actually seen any photos where it's covered up. So this way the engine doors can rest on this ridge here, and I still retain all of the details inside. So after a bit of research, I found out that the bow gunner's seat was actually removed so they could get an extra ammo rack in here. So I'm just going to remove that seat. So with the ammo racks, I've actually seen on photos there was a small metal extension that was welded to it, and then from that it had a wee strap to hold the ammunition in place. So I've fashioned this wee end piece out of brass, and that will just sit in there. And then just taking a wee sculpting tool with a little round ball at the end, just sort of rounding that off, just so it fits the shape of the actual ammo rack. And then that fits in there nice and snug. As for the straps, I'm going to be using Tamiya's masking tape. I'm just going to cut thin strips, and I have some spare photo etch buckles that I'm going to use as well. So what I've decided to do for this front hatch here is make some practical hinges. I can scratch build these, but I'm just using some pre-made ones from my Tiger 1 build. It's going to be easier for me to make one long one and then cut it to size. So I've got the two pieces there, and then I'm going to interlock them. Now they're interlocked, I'm just putting a piece of 0.3mm brass wire in there. And just folding those tabs over one by one. So I've trimmed up a couple of hinges here that I'm going to be using for the hatch. Before I do that, I just need to remove the existing plastic hinges. I've just put a couple of black dots on there just so I can line them back up. In the instructions it has to remove this line here and this handle just so I can fit the control panel in. Now I'm going to glue these two front panels together so I can take them off as one piece. I'm just going to remove these end pieces just so it lets me get the whole gearbox in and out of the tank without trouble. Just adding a bit of extra detail here as this will be able to be seen with the hatch open. So I have the doors here for the engine, and like the front hatch, I'm going to have these with working hinges. Process is just the same as before, simply these ones are a bit larger. So what I have to do first is to remove that plastic hinge. So I just made a couple of brackets here for the grille. And I'm also going to add in the bolt that would let them lock the door. Now as for the bolts on the outer side, I'm not going to worry about those because that's where I'm going to be attaching the trays. So the hinges on the doors are now fully functional. And looking around, you can see a lot of the detail in there, so I'm glad I decided to include it. And I'm just going to solder those corners together. And that's how it's looking once it's sanded. Now provided on the side of the sprue is some bolt heads that I'm going to attach to the grille. Now this tray frame's not going to be the easiest thing to put together, but thankfully they've added a few notches just so you can put things in the right place. For this tray, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the pieces off around the edges, just because the beams would have been welded straight to the actual frame. So that's it with the pieces taken off. So as for gluing it down, I'm going to do it in a few stages. I'm going to do the front portion first, then these side bits, and then finish off with the back. So the supports that were provided in the kit are not actually long enough to be able to be used. So I'm just going to be using some that I've made out of a brass sheet. But first I'm just going to remove a couple of those bolts. And the back ones as well, they're not long enough, so I'm just going to make my own. So once again I'm using these bolt heads on the supports just to complete that look. Now as for the brackets, I don't think they're very accurate and they're way too thick. So what I've done is I've designed my own that I'm going to cut out of brass sheet. The side just folds up there, and that's the part that will attach to the muffler. So here are the two wee pieces, and I'm just going to fold them using the bending tool. And I just want to make the exhaust pipe wall a bit thinner, so I'm just going to drill that hole a bit wider. Now, since the outside of the wheel was made of rubber, I'm going to add a few nicks and gouges into it, and then I'm just going to smooth the whole thing off. So I've just attached it to a rotary drill, or you could use a Dremel as well. And this way it lets me get a nice smooth round edge while sanding. And the same process for the return rollers. And there's some nice detail there of the company that manufactured them. So that's how the wheels are looking now they're all done. So the wheels will stay loose for now, just so I can get behind them to paint. And with the wheels on, that's where I'll wrap up this video. And I hope you've enjoyed the content so far. And please subscribe so you don't miss all the work I put into finishing the model. And until next time, thanks very much for watching.